All right, let's pick up where we left last time. We finished up talking about the production possibility curve and how that came about because of opportunity cost and mutually exclusive options. That's where we left off. We said when that production possibility curve moves outwardly, that increases our standard macroeconomic standard of living, and when it decreases, it reduces our macroeconomic standard of living. And the idea is that we want to be on that curve somewhere so that we are at maximum efficiency and maximum utilization of our resources. So I want to jump back and do a final critique of utilitarianism, and again, you know that came into our class discussion because of our discussion of the economic decision-making rule, which basically said that we look at a situation, and if the marginal benefits exceed the marginal cost, we should do it. But if the marginal cost exceed the marginal benefit, then we shouldn't do that. Does that ring a bell with anybody? And then we went on to talk about how that was an application of an economic philosophy called utilitarianism, and I mentioned that practically all, I didn't give a percentage, but upwards of 90+%, all macroeconomic policy decisions are made on the basis of that particular ethical philosophy. Whether people know the name of it or not, it's irrelevant. That is what they are doing. And I left you with a question. I think I did some illustrations in class about how can we maximize everybody's grade in this class, and that would be if most of you got A's and just one or two of you got F's. And I think we did that one. I think we did another hypothetical pain and pleasure sort of thing, that if we all got half hour of pleasure and one person got 10 seconds of tremendous unspeakable pain, what would our utilitarian ethic say that we as a whole should do? And you can see where I'm going with that. I talked about the outer belt illustration and how every macroeconomic policy involves making some sort of political decision in order to attain the greatest good to the greatest number, but that also implies that there are going to be some people who are going to have to bite the bullet. Some people are going to have to have a lower standard of living so that the majority of the people can have a higher standard of living. And does anybody remember the final critique or where I left off with that? If you don't remember, I do. And it had to do with a moral argument. A moral argument of, is that fair? Is it a good thing to take from some people to give to other people? Is that morally justifiable? Well, you say, well, you should never harm one person nor to help another person. That doesn't sound right. But what if we harm one person to help two others? Well, how much are you going to harm them, and how much better off are they going to be? Well, is it okay to harm 2 or 3 people for the benefit of 200 or 300 people? You see where I'm going with that. Pretty soon you say, well, you know, minorities, they don't really need to live on that property. We can get them someplace else. And I think we used Farmer McGillicuddy or something like that. So I left it with a moral critique, but I'd like to give you a final critique of utilitarianism, and that draws back on something that you already know when we were differentiating between the accounting perspective and the economic perspective. So I'm going to draw that into this final critique of utilitarianism. We said that they differed in terms of their time perspective. We said they differed in terms of accountants only want to deal with objective data, and the economists say the only costs that really count are the subjective cost. And we said we even use numbers differently to account for how many cows are in the field, and we can come up with a cardinal number, which we can add, subtract, multiply, and divide. But we said we can also use numbers in an ordinal fashion where we simply rank things. How would we rank this movie compared to another movie? How would you rank this particular course compared to another course? And when push comes to shove, that's what professors have to do. They have to rank, give grades to students at the end of a semester. And that would be kind of an economic activity. I'm saying, how much does this person know, how much they can apply, how much can they bring into their life based upon the testing and the evaluation purposes. Now, using that concept, we said that a company like Kokosing could figure out how much it's going to cost in terms of dollars to put in that outer belt around Mansfield. Would you agree that they could do a good job with that? I got a lot of nods. Yep. Fact is, they're experts at it. They're very, very good at it, or they go out of business if they're not very good at it, or not very good at executing it. But we said that there's another kind of cost, not an accounting cost, but an economic cost, and that kind of cost couldn't be put in any sort of tally sheet. And that was the cost to the gentleman who's going to, aged gentleman who's going to lose his farm, and according to this made-up scenario that I came up with, you take away his farm and you're taking away his essence of life. And I think we ended by saying, was that a very high cost of putting in the outer belt? Yes. Yes. Is it the type of cost that we can put into an accounting statement? No. And is that cost the same for every person? No. And is that cost an ordinal, subjective cost, or is it a cardinal, objective cost? You're all just being very, very quiet. That cost, I'll use the other example. One person is going to get a lot of pain. A lot of you are going to get a lot of pleasure, right? Yay for the pleasure. Boo, too bad for him. That's the luck of the draw. Now, can we objectively measure how much pain, I think it was our friend, was going to experience? And it could be, some people have a high pain threshold, other people don't, right? Could it be that he could go out of class stuttering and muttering and nothing quite clicking, and now he has a phobia and he won't take another class in college again, and it has warped him for life? That'd be a pretty high cost, right? For our pleasure. Now, can we measure that like we can measure dollars? And can we measure and add together all the pleasure that you guys got over here? Can you add that up to see which one weighs the most? Does the pain weigh the most, or does the pleasure weigh the most? Okay. Now that I've got you on that, you have just heard my final critique of utilitarianism. Not only have I brought up the moral ethical question of should we delegate to government those kinds of decisions? Should we? That's the moral argument. I'm bringing up the other argument that if we can't measure how much pain he's enduring, nor can we measure up how much pleasure the rest of the class is getting from the same event, is it possible, is it even possible to say, okay, well, we're going to add up all the marginal benefits, and we're going to add up all the marginal costs, and we're going to see which one is more, and then we're going to go with that option. Is that even a possibility? You can nod or say, I don't know, or I guess so, or I guess not. The point of this final critique of the bulk of all macroeconomic policy is that even in theory, it's not possible to do what our text just said is being done. Taking the moral ethical argument aside, I'm saying it's impossible to add up, add, subtract, multiply, and divide, ordinal values. Yes, we can with cardinal values, but no, we can't with ordinal values. And I wanted to tie that together as a final critique of utilitarianism.